Good evening, welcome back. The annual meeting of the World Economic Forum begins tomorrow in the small mountainous town of Davos in Switzerland. It will see world leaders, but no one from the United States, discussing the state of the economy and is likely to feature a focus on the fourth industrial revolution. There for SABC News this week is our very own Nzinga Qunta. Nzinga, good evening to you in Davos tonight. What are you expecting to come from the discussions this week?
A very good evening to you, Stephen. We're expecting to hear discussions centered around the theme for the 2019 World Economic Forum, which is Globalization 4.0, shaping a global architecture in the face of the fourth industrial revolution. Leaders from all over the world have gathered. There's about 3,000 people who are gathering in this small Swiss town to discuss issues around this theme. We've been speaking to people just before the meeting starts to get a sense of what they want to raise. Earlier, I spoke to Dr. Rob Davies, our Minister of Trade and Industry. He reiterated last week that South Africa is not actually prepared for the fourth industrial revolution, according to some surveys that were published by the World Economic Forum. And he was speaking about how within the trade and industry space, they're really looking forward to discussions around globalization, because saying globalization has taken place, but it's not the right type of globalization. We've seen a rise in nationalism, in international discourse. We've seen trade wars, and the world is trying to move, or the World Economic Forum rather, is trying to move the conversations into a globalization and a fourth industrial revolution that's sustainable, that's human-focused, and that's inclusive. And that's kind of moving away from the quite strong rhetoric that we've seen from people like the United States, who are trying to move into a state where they are very protective of themselves and don't want to be inclusive of the rest of the world. So that's going to be something that's come up. Someone else that we spoke to that was very interesting, Stephen, was the Executive Director of Oxfam. In the middle of this discussion of billionaires and millionaires and world leaders, she's coming out and saying there is such a rampant inequality in the world. Billionaires have made $2.5 billion, I think that was the number that she says, each day, while the poorest people have made less money. So that's saying that the rich are getting richer, really is true, and the poor are getting poorer. And she's saying she's come to Davos to make sure that in the middle of all this wealth and all this inequality, she's going to point out that there's lots wrong with the world. She says that fault lies at the feet of the very people who are going to be gathered here. And those conversations cannot take place without Oxfam and people like her saying you cannot have discussions around the economy without people who are excluded. You cannot have discussions about changing the world as such without considering young people who are excluded. She spoke about there's such a large majority of girls, particularly in Uganda was the country that she pointed out, who have done really well at passing primary level but will never get to high school because of this inequality that she sees, obviously speaking about that Oxfam report. So these are some of the conversations that we expect to happen at Davos this week.
Nzinga Qunta, thank you very much indeed. Part of our team in Davos for SABC News. Nzinga, thanks very much.